Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host, Chaos Lord Sakor, and joining me today we got Lieutenant Gerald Dornis. Yo.
Hello, good afternoon, evening, or whenever you're listening to this.
Yeah, we got a fun episode of Liber Malleus. We've had some conflict in the chapter recently that we've gone through. Conflict, but before we get to it, we got one of the guests, and it's always fun doing podcasting and somebody's like, hey, I'll podcast with you, and you're like, okay, and then the first time you get to talk to him is podcasting. So hey, welcome, Censored.
Hey, glad to be here.
We don't even get to know your name, we don't even get to see your face. It's truly a pleasure, though.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here, man. Kind of surprised I made it, but happy nonetheless.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we got a fun episode of Liber Malleus. Let's just do some quick housekeeping before we get into it. Discord. Discord's very important. It's the best place to keep up to date with everything. I got the Liber Malleus workout challenge that I'm announcing right now. And that can only happen on the Discord. But basically, if you go onto the Discord and you do 40 consecutive push-ups and you film yourself doing it and you send it to the Get Jack channel and you at me, you get yourself a free spot in the Liber Malleus. You're choosing. What war gear do you want? What options? Let me know. You did the push-ups. You've earned it. If you were a little boy, you would have been abducted. But unfortunately, different reality and timeline. So here we are with just plastic minis.
This makes me glad I already have a spot because I'd fail miserably.
Yeah, I tried
Oh,
cracking
heck
it
yeah.
myself. And
I'm probably gonna go after this, try and take it.
yes, okay.
Do it.
I don't know what you look like, so it could be like actually achievable. You're like a gem rat, like fuck this little Marcus. I'm gonna eat
No,
this challenge.
I'm skinny as fuck. Yeah, I'm gonna be able to do it because I'm just so light. It doesn't take much energy.
Gravity can't hurt me. Yeah, I thought that was a fun little challenge, just a little Discord contest. I like promoting the health too, and it seems right where we want it with the Liber Malleus. So definitely go join. Try to do 40 push-ups, send it to me, and get yourself a spot.
That all sounds well and good, and if that seems like a bit much, then you got other ways to help out. Just come and join the Imperial Tithe. You can get ad-free versions on Spotify because who honestly wants to listen to ads? And if you say yes, stop lying to yourself. So for just $2.50 per month, that gets you that. For $5 per month, you can get access to the video version and the live stream, which is what exactly we're doing right now. So
yeah, it's a quiet day on the live stream. It's a Saturday. Maybe I'll go quickly at the Discord and let people know we're doing it. Maybe that's probably a good way to manage a show. But hey, whatever. Bonus episode.
Yeah, kind of a surprise one.
Yeah. And we also got our live stream. So yeah, if you do join, you can get access to the chat room. And hey, there's Lupercall. People are starting to join, so that's nice.
There we go.
And
yeah, and then at the end, there's always call-ins.
Yeah, fuck yeah. You call in, or you just skip that and you just join the whole show. Fuck it, whatever.
Yep.
All right. So the Liber Malleus. Let's do a refresher. I'll give the quick verbal diarrhea refresher, and then we'll get into the more official one. The Liber Malleus is the official Lorehammer chapter that we made. The Hammers of Knowledge, as they're rarely called, but I do like that moniker as well. And basically what this was, it was a fundraising campaign that Lorehammer did a couple years ago where people could buy their spot in the Liber Malleus. And I would then build a model. They could name it, and I would give it the appropriate name and war gear, give it a nameplate, do all the appropriate accoutrement for the guy that they requested. Sometimes you get a weird stuff where they're just like, my guy on his left knee, he really needs like a dent on it because I have a limp. And I'm like, I got you, homie. I'll paint that for you. So it's this campaign where as a community, we kind of crowdfund a bunch of money. I got a cool army out of it as well, which was very cool. You guys were just feeding me that plastic crack. But the Liber Malleus was a chapter that was basically obsessed with gathering knowledge. And maybe Gerald take it to the read.
Yep. Pretty interesting stuff. And like I mentioned before, the last time I was on, my only regret was not discovering Lorehammer sooner when that campaign was going on. So, but for a more official, so to speak, refresher, the Liber Malleus, also known as the Lorehammers, are a fleet-based space marine chapter founded after the Indomitus Crusade due to a clerical oversight dating back to the 13th Black Crusade, as you do. Personally reauthorized by Reboot Gilliman, the chapter was created with a singular purpose: to scour the galaxy for knowledge, exterminating Xenos and heretics while harvesting their secrets to store in vast library citadels aboard their flagship, the Luminous Est. With a culture rooted in obsessive study, debate, and the weaponization of information, they value knowledge as the highest form of power, often placing them at odds with the Inquisition due to their use of forbidden lore. Composed entirely of firstborn Marines due to bureaucratic error, each of their 8 self-sufficient companies is built to operate autonomously across the stars, adapting Codex doctrine to suit their data-driven warfare. Clad in gray and orange and guided by a roster of eccentric but formidable leaders, the Liber Malleus are relentless in their mission to hammer out the truth of the galaxy, one battle at a time.
Yeah, it was what ended up happening, the meta behind this is I didn't want to do Primaris. You've heard me rant, you heard me rave. So I'm like, how do I remain firstborn in an age of Primaris? Okay, classic clerical error. Who's gonna fault me? Was I the servant who did that clerical error? Probably.
Accidentally on purpose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's where I
I
come in
just
with the
kind of
primary
forgot
stuff,
about
though.
us.
exactly.
Yeah, I just forgot about us. We just run around learning everything.
Yep, just left to our own devices, picking up all types of forbidden tomes, learning all types of dark secrets. It's a good time.
Yeah, Zinch was enjoying it. The Liber Malleus was born from a clerical error. The whole chapter that shouldn't exist, but it does. That sets the tone of quiet rebellion and irony that runs through everything else. Their belief that knowledge is the ultimate weapon, even if it's heretical or Xenos in origin, makes them feel more like rogue philosophers than Astartes, constantly towing the line of what the Imperium allows. The image of their massive mobile fortress libraries drifting through space on the luminous east is indescribably evocative, and it raises questions about what secrets they guard and how far they're willing to go to acquire more. Their sustained relationship with the Inquisition feels more like an inevitable powder keg. Do they have allies in high places, or are they one false move from censure and extermination? The fact that they're made up entirely of firstborn due to the same error makes them seem like relics of a past era, clinging to traditions the wider Imperium is abandoning. And finally, their decentralized company structure hints at internal diversity, maybe even conflict. Different captains interpreting the chapter's missions in radically different ways, but there's lots of room for intrigue, secrecy, and ideological drama.
Yeah, I really like this visual of the scholar warrior, and especially with Astartes where they're wearing power armors and then like monk robes, candles, reading a book wearing power armor in a dark room by candlelight. I just kind of like that visual.
Kind of makes
I
me
do
think of
too.
the
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Kind of makes me think of the Hammer and Bolter episode that has Lucius, and I think it's the Exorcists. I think it's the Exorcist chapter, and like after Lucius dies, quote unquote, they're literally in like their ceremonial robes and power armor, just reading through tomes afterwards, and the job is done.
Yeah,
It's
nothing
just kind
like.
it makes me think a lot like the why am I forgetting all of a sudden? The fucking word bearers. Like that just I see that they're very religiously fanatical, and a lot of their figures had they had like books and knowledge. That was sort of their thing.
Yeah, it's almost like a mix between that and the Mechanicum, where the Mechanicum have like the quest for knowledge, where it's not it's not necessarily the knowledge that they find that they worship like the word bearers, but it's just having that knowledge is what they want, you know? So that's kind of the basic breakdown of the chapter. We did do an episode. Maybe if somebody wants to look that up somehow. If not, I'll look it up when it's not my time to read. But you could go back and read like the original lore packet that we did for these guys for the other campaigns and read the full document. We discuss it, we talk about it, all that. But the new campaign that happened was the Sundering of the chapter. And we've been going through this and working on this as a community. So I'll kind of pick this up. The Sundering is upon the Liber Malleus. In the wake of Guilliman's return and the great reshuffling of the Imperium, the Primarch himself has taken notice of the chapter's unusual structure, entirely composed of firstborn Marines, preserved by nothing more than a centuries-old clerical oversight. Guilliman, ever the reformer, has issued a mandate. The chapter must either cross the Rubicon Primaris or conform to the new standard and conform to the new standard of war, or undertake a penitent crusade to atone for the resistance to progress. The ultimatum has sent tremors through the ranks. Some brothers, eager to embrace the power and resilience of the Primaris form, prepare for a dangerous transition, believing it to be a best path forward. Others refuse, holding fast to the traditions and ancient philosophies of the chapter, convinced that their penance and servants through knowledge and battle will speak louder than genetic alteration. The chapter stands on the brink, not of destruction, but transformation. Its identity, once singular, now cleaved in two by the will of a godlike figure and the weight of its own past. So this was fun. I read this live during a couple episodes ago. And then on the Discord, we held a poll of which of these two options did the chapter want to go. Basically, my concept was, okay, do I undig my heels here and let the community possibly make me do Primaris Marines, you know? Does the chapter evolve? Do I evolve as a person? We'll find out. No. That's not what the people wanted for me.
No, instead we decided civil war, baby.
Civil war and chaos. You're like, option number 3, please. So that was pretty fun watching the Discord. As we're recording an episode, just watching the poll go up and be like, hey, wait, I didn't know there was a third option.
Until Christian brought it up, starting the first part of the Lorehammer heresy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, at first I went firstborn, and then I saw third option and went third. Like, put it down, went and undid the vote and redid it for chaos.
So you're part of the problem. Actually, no,
yeah.
I'm your chaos lord. So thank you. I embrace the new change. I'm happy with it. At the end of that episode, I read the count and I actually did the numbers up wrong. I was doing them in my head and I just fucked up like an idiot. You know, sometimes that happens. And I thought chaos exclusively won and the whole chapter turned rogue. Upon recount, it was a 50, or it was a split between firstborn and chaos. So we ended up doing both. This kind of the concept. So you know, why not?
I do like that the entire community was like, no, we're not being Primaris.
Yeah, there's like 2 votes for it.
Your fears were unfounded, Mark.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, you guys didn't do me dirty. In fact, you're like, no, Mark, you wanted 1 army, we'll give you 2.
I did you dirty, but anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's kind of the concept of that. So I then went from there and I broke down the 2 formations of like, okay, what are we actually trying to collect in these 2 armies? And I broke that down. There's links in the description below if you want to see the Liber Malleus old notes or this kind of breakout of the chapter organization currently. But until then, maybe we'll read a little more.
Yep. So this latest campaign called the Sundering, there is a Google Doc of it up on the Discord. I think Mark has pinned it, so you can just go back to the pins in, I think it's the Liber Malleus channel. So that way it gives you an idea of kind of how all this is going down and what's available, because there's a lot of cool stuff involved. But actually, okay. Let's actually get into what this is. The Sundering shattered the Liber Malleus. When Guilliman uncovered their status as an all firstborn chapter, Sustained by forgotten oversight, he demanded conformity, cross the Rubicon, or embark on a penitent crusade. But the chapter splintered under the weight of this decree. A third path was chosen by a defiant few, rebellion. Fleeing into the Maelstrom, this rogue force, now called the Unbound, escaped both Ultramarine wrath and Loyalist purist, though at great cost. Only 50 Loyalist Astartes and 50 renegades remained. The Unbound returned, warped but not corrupted, wielding arcane weapons and Terminator plate, unbound by loyalty to any god. In response, the Loyalists donned their own sacred suits, bracing themselves on the Maelstrom's edge for the day their former brothers return. Whoever wins, wins the Liber Malleus.
Which could literally be the Lorehammer, like a championship trophy, or it could be the chapter. It's up to reader's interpretation, I think. So the chapter, man, this is like a huge event for the chapter. It basically destroys itself. Now there's only 100 Astartes left in total, 50 on each side. I kind of just picture, this conflict of like the vast majority of the chapter actually fell to Unbound. And with the help of the Ultramarines, the remaining firstborn were able to kind of harry and kill the majority of the Unbound as they fled into the Maelstrom. That was kind of how I was picturing in my head. The Ultramarines have to be involved to some degree in this story to help kind of just move it forward, force people. And then my other thought was, I want to, the last campaigns we did Devastators, Tactical Marines, and Assault Marines, and some veterans and stuff. But this one I want to do a lot of veterans. In fact, I want to do all veterans. So then, now that everyone's like, there's only a couple guys left, everyone has Terminator armor. Everyone's rocking the best gear. Everyone's a veteran now. They survived the Civil War.
Yeah, I was about to say, everyone's a vet if there's only 50 left.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where we're buying into with the campaign, is we basically have 50 Astartes on both sides that you can buy into, and that's all. We'll get to the fate of the Liber Malleus later. I don't have any official outcome of what happens, but, I got some teasers. But yeah, there's two sides. There's the Unbound and the Reforged. And, the Unbound's another concept you guys have been hearing me talk about a lot. And it was kind of my first little teaser into this, and my first official faction tied to it.
The Reforged is what remains of the loyalist Liber Malleus. 50 battle-hardened Astartes clad in sacred Terminator armor, each a living relic of the chapter's legacy. Decreed by Gilliman himself, they are forbidden from inducting new recruits until their traitor kin, the Unbound, are destroyed. In defiance of despair, and as a symbol of their rebirth, they have repainted their once drab gray armor in blazing orange and black, colors chosen to mark the reforging of a broken brotherhood into a single searing oath of vengeance. Cut off from renewal, these warriors have become the weapons of a singular purpose, unyielding, unrelenting, and sharpened by betrayal. They burn not with hate, but with clarity. Their oaths reforged in fire and silence. When the Reforged strikes, it is not out of rage, but out of a cold, precise fury of a blade made to end a brother's war.
Yeah.
Boss.
When writing these guys, the old Liber Malleus, we've gone through a change. The old Liber Malleus was scholar warriors, The Reforged are warrior scholars. They're heavy on the warrior and a little bit on the reading, but they definitely have their purpose cut out for them. They've repainted their Terminator armor blazing orange, which I can't wait to try to fucking paint. I hear it's tough, but we'll do it.
Not as bad as yellow.
Okay, well, there's always something worse, I guess.
Yeah, I've been struggling with orange. Like, I tried painting one myself, and I'm having to redo it because that orange just was tough for me.
You're painting like a Liber Malleus, or?
Yeah, I do chaos as my army, but I like the new colors because the first time I looked at it, I thought it was brown.
That's so gross. Yeah.
Yeah, the
No
first time I
orange.
looked at the original colors, I was like, oh, dark gray and brown. Okay, like a rust, I guess.
I guess he's up to something, that Mark character. Fuck. All right, let's talk about the actual organization of what's left of the chapter. As mentioned, the Reforge cannot recruit new members, so this is it until they hunt down all of the fallen. So the chapter command is Chapter Master Trevor Buzak, and he has a chapter champion, a chapter ancient, and 3 honor guard. Then there's the company command, which consists of a chaplain and 2 lieutenants. One of these lieutenants is Dorn, our sweet Geraldus Dorn here. Yes. I thought that'd be fitting to, having you lead something.
A pleasure to be of service, Mark.
Yes. And the other one is Courtney, based off of our other fun little lore host, Court. You guys can be the lieutenants of Trevor Buzak in that army. As mentioned, I did not have any librarians, any tech marines, any apothecaries in this. Only a chaplain. And my kind of thought was twofold. I want to be able to balance out loyalists and traitors, and there just wasn't that many options to try to balance out. So I'm like, okay, how do you kind of fucking cut some of these? And I'm like, okay, tech marine, maybe they don't go to battle. They're just maintaining. That's an easy. You don't need that guy. Same with apothecary. They're just doing healing at this point. They're not doing war. Psychers, Reboot Gilliman maybe decreed they can't have psychers anymore due to the heresy in their ranks. Bingo bango. And then the chaplain, it's like, okay, you guys always need a chaplain to watch for heresy, though, was kind of my thought on that.
As long as it's not Leandros.
Yes, well, it might be, it might be his pupil even. Yeah. So then what else we have is close support Terminators, which are assault Terminators, and there's 2 squads with 5 members each. And who knows the war gear options? People are going to be able to can buy into them and choose what war gears you want. Fucking Thunderhammer and Powerclaw. You got it. Absolutely. Then we got Battle Line Terminators. Basically, you got 25 Terminators. You got close, you got far, and you got medium range ones. So, and then we jump into the armory, and Venerable Jordanus made it in the form of a relic contemptor. And we also got a contemptor, another one, Leviathan, and a Deridio. So yeah, those are kind of what is left of the chapter. Everything else has kind of been eliminated, or they don't have the manpower now to use the tanks that are left, or
it's just all the big stuff now.
Yeah,
all the big stuff they can bring.
Yeah, they're just like, okay, we got Terminator suits. You guys all get one now. And one guy who's like just been promoted. He's like, I've only been in Astartes for like 2 years. He's like, you get Terminator armor, buddy. Enjoy.
Congratulations,
you're one of the lucky ones.
You're a general now.
You're the general. Yeah.
Oh man, the who to what now? You're going in the guards, son. You survived your first deployment. Good job. You're now a lieutenant. All right.
Not because you did too well, just because there's no one else.
Basically. But what does this part of the chapter look like? Let's talk about that right now. The Reforged of the Liber Malleus stride into battle like grim avatars of vengeance, clad in blazing orange Terminator plate that catches the light like flames. Their black shoulder guards and knee pads bear intricate heraldry and sacred script, oaths, litanies, and the names of fallen brothers etched in memory and wrath. Flowing black robes hang from their armored frames, trailing like mourning shrouds, giving them the austere, somber air of warrior librarians. Their presence is both noble and terrifying, a fusion of penitence and judgment forged in betrayal and bound by purpose. Each reforged is a monument to discipline, duty, and the cold fire of retribution. And apparently there are some models in the works. We have one gentleman working on a shoulder pad, was it?
Oh, yeah. We got those shoulder pads being designed, the Liber Malleus Terminator pads, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
When we're buying the models and building this chapter, basically what I was going to do was the new Terminator models, but every sergeant and the honor guard are all going to be the Deathwing Dark Angel Terminators that have the robes on them. I'll take off all the Dark Angel bits and whatever. I'm pretty good with green stuff. Do whatever I have to do, but give them that kind of robed look. And then the other thing I want to do is, so have the orange armor with the black robes and kind of black spots like the shoulder pads and knee pads where you can paint your heraldry and all that kind of stuff. The other thing I want to kind of add was possibly flames. It'd be pretty easy to green stuff little flames on shoulder pads or shin guards or whatever, just for that kind of reforged vibe. What do you think?
Like they're on fire?
Not necessarily on fire, just like, yeah, they're
Just more like a
they're
flame
cleansed.
decal.
Yeah, more like a flame decal. Exactly. That's what I'm talking.
Okay.
Flame decal, not literal fire.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that'll look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get these like flaming warrior scholars now. Other models, I think that's going to be the general vibe of it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There'll be some other specifics, but nothing to really speak of at this current moment.
You know what? I think a librarian and Terminator armor would fit pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it is a psyker. It is a psyker.
But that is just a
I mean-
house imposed rule, you know.
Yeah.
My,
I mean,
my
you could
big
just limit the psyker thing and use it for the aesthetic.
well, like honestly, this is what happened. Like when I was looking at the chaos side for heroes, they have only a few heroes. They have Abaddon for a Terminator, which you can't use. He's way too big. And then you have old Abaddon, which once again you can't use. That's like a 30-year-old model, way too small. Then you have yeah, you never find his arms either. Then you have the
Yeah.
Chaos Lord, who can also be a Chaos Sorcerer with that multi-pose kit. And that's what you got. And those are your options. So when I was looking at all the heroes, I'm just like, man, I wish I could do a librarian. But then what did Chaos get? There's just no way to build more Terminators. I was just like, fuck.
Yeah, because I mean, a warpsmith would work for a tech marine.
But there's no model is the problem. And I
Not
like,
one in Terminator armor, you mean, right?
Yeah.
that's the problem,
That's
because all of it
kicker.
has to be in Terminator armor. So that's the
yep.
big kicker. And I don't even care necessarily about the rules. But even like, okay, so custom build a Chaos Terminator armor warpsmith. But there's only 5 Chaos Terminator models to begin with. So it's like, okay, all of a sudden, like you're having a lot of duplicates. You know what I mean? Like it just.
Mm-hmm.
So that's ultimately what led into the madness of fuck. There is so many cool Primaris Terminator heroes nowadays, but what do
Shit.
you do?
Get off my keyboard.
That's a cat.
Yeah.
We know something about censored now. He has a cat. His
All right.
sorry, one more quick thing. Lupercall in the chat says Fire of Retribution. Yeah, that's kind of the
like
vibe I
that.
was going for, you know.
I like that.
All right. The Reforged view their survival not as fortune, but as a burden, an inheritance of duty forged in betrayal. They believe that redemption lies not in victory or absolution, but in the extinction of the Unbound, their fallen kin who traded loyalty for power. To the Reforged, loyalty is no longer a matter of command or creed, but a sacred act of will, unbreakable even in the face of damnation. They do not pray for deliverance nor seek forgiveness. Their faith is action. Their sermons are silence. Their cathedral, the battlefield. Every strike they deliver is a litany. Every brother they slay, a step toward reforging the chapter's shattered soul. Until the last traitor falls, they are not a chapter reborn. They are judgment incarnate.
Yeah, I love
Beautiful.
it. They're just singular in purpose at this point. They're like, yeah, maybe when we're done killing all the fallen, we'll reforge the chapter. But honestly, by then there'll only be like 1 or 2 of us left, and what's the point? Like, let's just go hard. All right, so the tactics they use. Encased in Terminator plate, the Reforged wage war with unstoppable momentum and brutal precision. Exuding speed for resilience, they specialize in teleportation assaults, breaching actions, and close quarters annihilation. Each strike is a calculated, deliberate, favoring hammer blow, offensives that break the enemy lines with overwhelming force. Their primary objective is always the same: locate, isolate, and destroy the unbound elements hiding within the Maelstrom worn toward chaos. The Maelstroms worn toward chaos. Using ancient augur relics, warp disruptive beacons, and relentless pursuit, the Reforge hunt their former brothers with cold determination. They fight as a single unified phalanx, no scouts, no vanguard, only the unyielding march of iron and fire. Redemption is their mission, and until it is complete, they will not rest, they will not recruit, and they will not fail. Yeah.
These guys are just straight up hunters.
And I picture a lot of it too is like that tight, close quarters combat. They're hunting the Fallen, and where are the Fallen most likely going to be? Well, on their ships. So they're doing lots of boarding actions and ship combat in these tight spaces, and it presents a fun opportunity too, where you can hunt the Fallen and kill a bunch of people on the ship. You know, the ship has its own whole military force before you could even find one Fallen member that you'd get to. So it gives
Are
you the
you sure? Are you sure these are not Dark Angel successors?
Maybe. I thought that too. Honestly, if I would have known where the chapter was going, I would have gone that route too. I would have done Dark Angels in the first place, but here we are.
This makes me think of that Dark Angel story I read in like that anthology Start Here collection, and it was a new Primaris Marine joining up with some firstborn Dark Angels on a hunt for the Fallen, and then at the very end of the story, the firstborn Marines actually kill that Primaris Marine because they don't trust them.
Excellent, yeah.
So I was going to say earlier, because of the whole Primaris hate, that you could just go the Black Templar or the Dark Angels route and just kill them anyways. So
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trust the Primaris either. I mean, Call thinking he can improve. Blasphemy.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you guys didn't make me do Primaris. I'm so glad. I would rather the chapter fall to damnation than go to Primaris. Like,
I mean, everyone agreed with you. Everyone was like, damnation or crusade over being them.
And then here's Gerald sitting in the corner, extremely quiet, just doing the side eye.
You were the one Primaris vote.
Yes, I was.
No one. What a loser.
In my defense, I didn't come into this hobby until the height of 9th edition, where it was only Primaris stuff, so I didn't know any better.
I can't really say nothing. I only started back in like November now, but I started listening. I got into Warhammer listening to the podcast like a year and a half ago.
Nice. Do you have some minis?
Oh yeah, I'm building a small army. I just got done magnetizing a Predator tank.
Oh yeah, you said you're doing chaos and stuff, eh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Night Lords. Like, I'm really happy with all the Conrad episodes coming out.
Okay. Nice.
Did you get a chance to listen into the last couple we did earlier this week?
Oh yeah, I've already listened to the first Conrad episode. I'm like halfway through the second one.
Yeah, they did a good job on that second one. I enjoyed it. I was doing a jungle walk and listening to them. Quite the vibe.
Oh yeah, this is my work podcast.
All right, moving forward to the Terminus Est, the Liber Malleus is capital flagship.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting to read about. The Luminous Est remains the flagship of the Reforged, once the crown jewel of the Liber Malleus fleet, now the last remnant of their once proud armada. Scarred from the battles of the Sundering and cloaked in deep silence, the Grand Cruiser drifts with solemn purpose through the void, a monument to survival and unbroken duty. Stripped of its escort vessels and support flotillas, the Luminous Est stands alone, its hull reinforced and its systems maintained by a skeleton crew of serfs, tech adepts, and the remaining loyal tech marines. Within its adamantine walls, the sacred library vault endures, still protected with ferocious vigilance, the Reforge's soul as much as its heart. Though the ship no longer commands a fleet, it carries with it the burden and legacy of the chapter. Its engines burn cold and slow, patient and unrelenting, for it moves not toward conquest, but toward justice. Wherever the Unbound seek to hide, the Loomis Est will follow, its guns silent until the time comes to speak in flame.
Yeah. I picture being on this ship, it being so quiet, except for the sound of like sword clangings. Like, at this point, the Reforge, they're not so much reading their books. They're doing war, so they're not doing a whole lot of anything else. Where back in the day, the Luminous S was like, yeah, it was quiet and people were reading their books, and studying, and people would have come from across the Imperium to come and look at their catalog of books. But yeah, it's a very different vibe now.
Now instead of reading history, we're making it.
Yeah. Oh, I
in
like that.
blood.
The last part, maybe if you're a Corn follower, maybe the Chaos side says that one, but I like the first bit.
Oh no, they'd absolutely fall to Zinch.
I could buy
Zinch
that.
is loving all of their knowledge.
Yeah, definitely that would be a prime one for sure.
Quick question: do you have an idea of how the ship would look? As do you have a particular reference on any of the Imperial ships?
It is a Grand Cruiser, and I believe that is like the biggest category, bigger than their battle barges. And I did that just because it's like it's not fitted for war, so it wasn't like this massive. Now you have this overpowered thing. It's a library type situation, and yeah, it has defensive measures and all that, but
yeah.
It's just a floating supply ship, basically, is how I imagine it. They're not meant for fighting, but where everyone else comes to restock.
Yeah, and that's another good one too. Like if that's exactly it. The chapter, it's a fleet base, so they'd send their fleets out to go collect knowledge and bring it back to the Liber or to the Terminus Est. Here is a picture of it. Not it specifically, but just that category of ship. But most of these 40K ships look the same, But pretty cool.
Nice. And I imagine it's like fitted with like the chapter colors and everything.
Yeah.
Glorious.
I just imagine like every wall on the inside, there's a bookshelf, like just some random book scattered everywhere.
Yeah, like when they Slaanesh, they could almost fall to because of their obsession to collect knowledge. Where I can see them like ransacking like citizens' houses and taking like trash can garbage. Like, what's this receipt for? Like collecting shit like that, where it's just like we never need that ever, but we have it.
What did you filthy Xenos spend your paychecks on? Groceries.
Exactly.
All right. The Unbound are the severed soul of the Liber Malleus, those who turn from Imperium and Oath, embracing not servitude to the Chaos Gods, but the raw, unshackled power of the warp itself. Following the creed of Chaos Unbound, they do not kneel to demons or dark patrons. They wield the warp as a tool to fuel their strength, extend their lives, and bend reality to their will. Before their escape into the Maelstrom, they ransack the chapter's deepest vaults, stealing countless relics and prized suits of Terminator armor, ensuring their elite would not only be feared, but revered. Now they pursue power and freedom in equal measure, and to them, true freedom can only begin with the death of their loyalist kin.
Yeah, this is not a live and let live type situation. Yeah, the chapter is bound to meet. It's almost like they've both just been waiting for like they're restocked for them to kind of like get everything in order before they clash.
Everyone's prepping for the final showdown.
Yeah. Yeah, so a little more about Chaos Unbound, where it's not about worshiping any of the Chaos Gods or even worshiping multiple Chaos Gods. It's about just using the powers of the warp. Just imagine if you have a plasma gun, and instead of putting a demon in your gun to get a cool effect, you just harness extra warp energy into your plasma coils to overcharge it. that's the type of warp usage we're talking about, as opposed to like the other way.
Yeah, instead of worshiping and asking for it, we take it ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Lots of people will say that's going to lead to damnation. It's like, yeah, that's the point, bud. That's the point.
That's why it's called chaos.
That's why they're doing it.
It's like, why would you say this leads to damnation? You people voted for it.
You did this. The organization. Okay, so the Warband Command, it is led by the Chaos Lord, Lord Sakor, and the Sorcerer Lord, Lord Christian, and a Warband Champion that somebody will get to choose. They're voting for now, actually. Currently, people are auctioning for it. And then there are 3 aspiring champion or chosen that people are auctioning for right now as well. And then we get into Terminators. I was kind of thinking about Unbound when doing an episode for that topic. The sacred number, and what would that be? And I kind of came to, I think 3 would be Unbound sacred number. 3.333. It's just this like this infinite number, and that's kind of what like the untapped powers of the warp are. It's just like infinite, you know. So that's kind of my concept. So when laying out the the Unbound, I broke them into 3 squads with, 3 members each. There's 3 leaders of the warband. There's 3 chosen, and you just pick up that 3 over and over. There's also, if you want to go really hard, there's 3 squads of close support, 3 squads of battle line, 3 squads of fire support. So there's 9 in total, divisible by 3. You get those weird number savants in here that are probably beaten off right now, but that ain't for me. I took it as far as I wanted to go.
I don't know, man. 9 mentions. Zeech is taking notice.
Yeah. The armory, there's 2 predators and 1 land raider. One of these predators has already been bought and named, called Chris Hansen. So look out, predators. Chris Hansen's coming for you.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking of painting this predator that I have Liber Malleus colors.
Do it.
Then some fellow renegade reinforcements.
Excellent.
Maybe before we jump to the appearance, we should have gone and read some of the chapter heroes from before, just so we know who these are, because maybe that would have been more hitty if we knew where people were before. Characters from before, we had Chapter Master Marcus Sakor. His quote was, "I do not need to read the text to understand how to defeat you, foul Xenos." And he's known to be fond of saying that before slaying enemy commanders in single combat. So he actually went to Chaos, and he became Chaos Lord Sakor. The next character we had was Master of Sanctity Eric. I can only assume that Chapter Master Marcus killed him and ate him for his memories. I can only assume that that's what happened to him.
Well, you wanted his knowledge.
I wanted his knowledge. Marcus Sakor wanted it, unrelated to me.
I'm so glad you actually make reference to the omophagia. I think that and the Betra's gland are like the most underutilized of the gene seed abilities.
Yeah, they're not mentioned at all, so it's so easy to forget about them.
Yeah. Oh, what are our enemies doing? What's their battle plan? Let me eat this dude and I'll find out. Delicioso. Nom, 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 nom.
Yeah, I think aside from a few books, they don't even mention it. Like in any games, any show.
Mm-hmm. Like we learned in the Imperial Fist episodes that like theirs doesn't work. Their Betra's gland doesn't work. So that's understandable, but none of the other Marines ever talk about using it.
Yeah, I feel like we hear more often that it doesn't work as opposed to times people are using it.
Exactly.
You think like the Night Lords who, skin people would do something with the rest of the meat.
Yikes. Love it. We got Venerable Jordanus, and his quote is, "Time flies when committing mass genocide." Venerable Jordanus has served the chapter well before suffering crippling injuries on the planet Taxus 3. His wounds caused him to be entombed in a dreadnought, only to be brought out of the reclusium in the most dire of circumstances. So he remained loyal, I believe. Yeah, he remained loyal and is still kicking about, doing things for the chapter. Then we got Chief Librarian Christian. And his quote is, "I have seen my last day, but it is not this day." Christian has had a vision of his own death in the future. He constantly reminded by Chaplain Eric of this fate and grimly marches forward toward his doom. Maybe Christian beat his fate because he becomes the Sorcerer Lord of the Chaos side, and maybe he beat Eric. Maybe it wasn't Mark who killed him, Marcus. Maybe Marcus just ate him. But either way, Christian has survived. We got a bunch of other characters that are dead. Forge Master Colin. Oh, Gonzo. Reclusiarch Petor. See you later. Didn't buy in. You didn't get money. I mean, you didn't pass the Rubicon. I mean, you didn't do whatever you had to do to jump through these hoops. Adios, Jimothy, Chief Apothecary. We got the Fleet Master and Equerry, Demetrius. Not anymore, I don't think. Gone. Didn't make it. Died in the conflict. And we also got the Chapter Ancient Paul. Believe it or not, though, he survives. He will always survive because he's the guy who drew the Lorehammer logo. So he lives on for all time, always. His quote is, "My art is drawn with blade and bolter." Ancient beyond counting, yet known for his youthful vigor, Paul has been appointed the bearer of the chapter's most sacred standard, the chapter banner. So he makes it, and he remains loyalist and is still to this day carrying the chapter banner.
Based.
Yeah. So there's some updates. You know, we got a couple dead characters. We got a couple new ones. I would love to hear some of the old Liber Malleus buy-ins. I sent an email to everyone offering them a 25% discount. Like if you bought in, you can buy in again, and maybe you survive this battle, and your story will continue on, because there's a bunch of cool stories too that characters wrote up.
Any takers so far?
Yeah, now it's a gamble. Are you going to survive to the next event?
Yeah. Oh yeah, hard to say. Yeah, I've been talking to a couple people through email, so pretty cool to see maybe a couple more surviving.
Awesome. Is that all the heroes that we got?
Yeah, that was all. We can carry on to the Unbound and what they look like.
All right, fair enough. Didn't want to steal your thunder there. But what did the Unbound look like? Especially since they're chaos tainted. The Unbound retained the cold iron gray of their original armor, a stark reminder of the chapter they once were, but now corrupted by ambition and touched by the warp. The warplate is accented with dull orange highlights, twisted echoes of their former heraldry, now overlaid with burnished brass, warped icons, and Baroque detailing. Their appearance is brutal and imposing. Jagged edges, horned helms, and stylized mutation meld with the ancient artificer work, creating this terrifying silhouette that blurs the line between warrior and warlock. They are the image of heresy unbound, proud, defiant, and remade in the crucible of the Maelstrom. So tell us, Mark, what kind of ideas were you having in mind for these models?
Yeah, so we're going with those standard Terminators. Like I was kind of saying, not a whole lot of variety for them, but in the war gear options, that's where you get a lot of the flavor for each of these guys, because everyone's going to be different is kind of the hope. You want whatever, you got it. I'll help you out. I was thinking about doing glowing orange script, very word bearer-esque on them. You know, they're wearing the gray Terminator armor, so you add a little pops of colors of like just writ on them. The other thought that I wasn't sure about going was mutations in the chapter, and if I wanted to allow people to get like a tentacle arm or, you know, third stomach. What do the benefits of Unbound look like? We haven't fully seen yet, I don't think. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think the possessed are very nice models, but I just don't feel like they fit what Liber Malleus stands for.
That's
Like,
kind of the vibe.
they're trying
yeah.
to take the knowledge for themselves, not sell themselves for it.
I see
Yeah.
Liber Malleus is more like if you're going with the Unbound route, they're kind of more in line with like Night Lords and Iron Warriors that they don't want demon abilities. They don't want to be beholden to demons of the warp. They want to use the warp power, but not like the drawbacks of becoming like a warp spawn or being possessed or anything like that.
They want to
Yeah.
control the warp, not submit to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way I could think of it. No demons running their bodies. It's just them in there.
Yeah. Okay.
So I
I'm
guess for
glad
my
you guys
clarification,
Yep.
so I guess for my clarification, are you talking about doing the new Terminator models for 10th edition or the Chaos Terminator models for this?
the Chaos Terminator models. Those are
Okay.
maybe like call it 6 years old. That kit, maybe a little older than that, but it's still relatively new.
They still look good. I mean,
They look great. Yeah, no, like they're an updated kit compared to
Hmm.
like what I grew up with.
mhm. I like
When
this model better.
the old ones. With,
No. I mean, I'm saying I like the Chaos Terminator models better than the Loyalist ones.
yeah, like
I do too.
they got some flavor. Those tusky horns, man, always
Mhm.
classic to look at. Yeah,
Yeah, and
Yep.
like the spikes on their backs.
yeah. I was tempted to add like what do we do to make them a little more unique? Is it maybe add some fur to them? Some of the Chaos Terminators have a little fur on it. I can green stuff fur and expand that out, or is that glowing script enough? Or I don't know if I quite have like the thing that really kind of makes them pop, and make them kind of my own yet. But that's that, I suppose.
Interesting.
The Unbound believe that true strength lies not in blind allegiance, but in mystery and the warp. For all its horrors and the wellspring of untapped potential, to them the Chaos Gods are tyrants no better than the Emperor, demanding worship in exchange for favors that can be taken away just as easily. Instead, the Unbound walk the razor's edge of Chaos Unbound, a doctrine of dominance over the Imperium rather than submission to it. Through relentless study, dark pacts made on their terms, and brutal trials, they bend warp energies to sustain their bodies, enhance their senses, and unleash devastation on the battlefield. The warp is their weapon and shield, not their master. Survival is not the goal, ascendancy is.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that, like I almost picture it going one of two ways. It's like, yeah, they're not selling their self out for minor mutations. Like the goal is not to have a tentacle arm, but to become immortal is kind of ultimately the ultimate goal. How do they all do want to ascend. But yeah, it's not just like they're selling themselves out for anything. So you almost go the ascension route or the chaos spawn route. There's nothing really in between. You roll that dice and you're like, I need to roll a 6, otherwise it's a spawn.
So that ascension, are we talking like full on Demon Prince ascension or something more? Or
I would say just Demon Prince ascension. We do have demon princes that are not tied to any of the chaos gods, so it is possible.
okay, I was going to ask, how do you plan on doing that without going to one of the big four?
Like Bellicor would be the great example of a god that is not tied to the big four. He might be made by all the big four, but he escaped there. He's got some stuff. But there's Doom. Is Doombreed another one? Maybe not. There's a couple though.
I think there's a Night Lords war band that has an Unbound Demon Prince as their War Master.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I guess even like Perturabo is a demon Primarch of Unbound. So there are examples of it happening.
Okay.
I was just so it's like
because I legit didn't know. So
yeah, so that's ultimately the goal for all of them, but it's like they're not settling for anything less. So we don't really have to worry about them ever actually ascending, because to do that's so fucking hard. So they kind of just stay with where they're at.
Not to mention how expensive it'd be to get all those Demon Prince models.
Goddamn. Tactics. Encased in Terminator armor stolen from the vaults of the Liber Malleus, the Unbound strike with overwhelming force and supernatural precision. Their warbands teleport into battle like ghosts of vengeance, their forms wreathed in warp fire and shimmering distortion fields. Each warrior is a juggernaut, wielding ancient relic weapons crackling with chaotic energy, moving through enemy lines with unstoppable weight of fate itself. They care little for static warfare, for engagement is a brutal, calculated strike, assassination, devastation, and withdrawal. They strike where the former brothers are the weakest, vanishing into the warp before the counterblow can land. Their tactics reflect their creed. Power wielded with ruthless autonomy, freedom carved into the stars by fire and steel.
Despite their
Pretty
armor, they're doing a bunch of hit and run tactics.
Yeah, I just picture them teleporting in. Like, all is good. No one even knows that these guys are around. And then, boom, they teleport in. All chaos breaks free. And they pretty much leave after they've stolen whatever relic or object they've come for. Leaving just like, what the hell was that? Like,
just as fast as the gunfire erupts, it ends.
Exactly. And like, no one even knows why it happened. It takes them like a month to even be like, why did they steal the fountain pen? Why?
Show up, fuck shit up, refuse to elaborate, dip.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Just a correction. Sorry, just a correction with Lupercal there. He says Nurgle's number is 3 and 7. And now that he's saying that, yeah, it comes up in the symbology a whole bunch. You see it with the fly eyes and like his typical symbol. So that's a kink in my plan. But, you know, me and Nurgle are going to have a word. He can't be having 2 numbers. I get one of them.
I was going to say, since when did the Chaos Gods have 2 sacred numbers?
Yeah, fucking greedy.
But how does this Unbound do their hit and run, show up, fuck shit up, refuse to elaborate, dip methodology? Well, they have a fleet too. So the Unbound's fleet is ragged but deadly remnant of the Liber Malleus' former glory, comprised of a handful of strike cruisers stolen during their violent exodus from the chapter's ranks. Each vessel bears the scars of betrayal and warp taint, their hulls blackened by sorcery and adorned with profane markings etched in defiance of Imperial iconography. Though limited in number, these ships are swift, elusive, and well armed, perfect tools for a warband that strikes from the shadows and vanishes into the Maelstrom. Within their holds, corrupted machine spirits and enslaved servitors hum with unholy purpose, powering vessels that serve as both sanctuary and staging ground for the Unbound's next campaign of destruction. These cruisers are more than ships. They are monuments to rebellion and the promise of power without chains.
I wanted to stalemate these 2 forces, and basically the way I did that was one got a massive ship, and then the others got a bunch of ships where, you know, the massive ship is never going to be able to hunt down all the little ones. They can always just flee. But the small ones are never going to fully be able to destroy that big ship. So it kind of creates this internal stalemate where you have to go then and do Terminator boarding actions.
Yeah, now instead of just blowing up their home base, you have to go and hunt them all down.
Yeah.
Civil War, baby.
That's how she goes.
All right. The conflict between the Reforged and the Unbound is a brutal and haunting war fought in the void shadow, deep within the Maelstrom and along the war-torn edges of Imperial space. No planetary invasions or mass formations marked this campaign, only relentless boarding actions, surgical strikes, and catastrophic duels between Terminator armored elites. Each encounter is an echo of the Brotherhood lost, an ancient war plate crashed against its mirror. Orange flames against tarnished gray. The Reforged hunt down their quarry with solemn resolve, striking from the terminus est like angels of judgment, while the Unbound respond with cunning ambushes and reality-warping fury. Warp storms conceal and reveal. Ships are gutted in silence, and corridors once used for prayer now run slick with blood. It is a war of attrition, of memory, and of blades drawn to end the sin older than words.
Yeah. So when basing all these models, I think I definitely want to base them on like ship gantries and ship interior type vibe. Lots of just metal and rust and yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that sounds like it's gonna be sick as fuck.
Yeah.
You gonna try and base your own ship parts, or are you gonna just use something like the Necromunda bases that kind of come pre-made almost?
Yeah, there's tons of those good ones that GW does, although I think that's probably expensive. I'll do some type of resin recast, or not recast, but just resin. People have asked me a couple times why the prices, why they are, and I'll just say they're kind of high. Like it's $40 to buy a veteran Terminator, but kind of the concept is to get it all the way we want it. Buy the mini. You buy a nameplate for your guy. You buy a 3D printed shoulder pad of the Liber Malleus. You buy a custom resin base. And then I also need to get all new paint and stuff for this project. So you got a couple things. I tried to keep it low. I wasn't trying to pocket a whole bunch of money, but that's kind of the concept. There's going to be a lot of extra little bits and stuff to really make them just like the last one, just stand out.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, 40's not that bad when you look at GW's website and you see like single character models go for the upper 50s or even 60s. So,
sure, but you actually get that. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Sorry.
I was like, the upper 50s if you don't buy like someone with an actual name.
Yeah.
Yeah, any of the name models, they go from like 70 to 100.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. But, I tried to keep it as low as possible while still being able to cover the cost of the project. But, yeah, anyway, so the Liber Malleus are fighting now. It's split in two. We got the Reforged and the Unbound. I kind of wrote up two potential little future views of the chapter, like just not anything solid, but we can read through what would happen if the Reforged win. If the Reforged are victorious, their sacred duty fulfilled, Gilliman's edict will be lifted. With the Unbound purged, the chapter will be granted leave to rebuild, not as a Primaris force, but as a rare and honored lineage of firstborn Astartes. Their survival will be a symbol of purity through pain, of loyalty tested and proven through flame. From the surviving veterans, new warriors will rise, taught not only in war, but in the silent rituals of knowledge gathering and record keeping that defines the Liber Malleus. Their robes will darken, their tomes expand, and their blades will shine, not just with vengeance, but with wisdom hard won. They will continue their mission across the stars, seekers of knowledge, wielders of truth, and the ever watchful of those that stray. A little dog commotion on my end, but yeah, that's one potential outcome. Their sins are forgiven and they can carry on.
So here's a question, follow-up question for that. Since they'll be allowed to rebuild, are they going to be forced? Or are they going to stick with the original firstborn method of creating an Astartes, or are they going to have to stick with Gilliman and Call's Primaris method?
I thought once the crusade ended, if it was successful, we got to remain firstborn. Like it was crusade and remain firstborn, or cross the Rubicon, become Primaris.
Yeah. So they remain firstborn, and like I kind of figure like they become the knowledge themselves. Like, look at this is another kind of record. Like our body is now the record of firstborn. Was kind of the vibe I was thinking.
Okay. I was talking about like strictly just for any new recruits to rebuild the chapter is what I meant.
Yeah. They'll all be firstborn.
I'd say like as part of their lore thing, they keep all of their traditions and they try to keep them all alive. Yeah. Just to be like, this is living history. This is what it used to. This is what everything used to be like, and they keep it that way.
Yeah, and I
Back in
don't
my
imagine
day.
I don't imagine they hide it too. I think like if they did actually purge their chapter and rebuild, I think it would almost be like they wouldn't be so closed off about it. It'd almost be like, yeah, we did this. We purged our rank. We have been tested. It's like the exorcists who literally have demons inside of them and then they vanquish them. Like it's a right of like we fucking have done something that most chapters don't.
We earned our right to be
Yeah.
not you.
But what happens if the Unbound win? Like, so here's the other scenario for that side of the coin. If the Unbound triumph and the last of the Reforged fall, then the chapter as once known is truly dead. Its loyal name crushed under the boots of heresy. The Unbound will rise not merely as traitors, but as something new, heralds of chaos unbound. In secret libraries of madness and drifting fortresses of flesh and steel, they will delve deeper into the warp's primal essence, not as supplicants, but as sorcerous lords. They will harness the raw energies of the Imperium to manifest terrifying powers, summoning lesser demons like Furies, conjuring warp flame storms, and twisting the veil of reality itself. No longer merely a warband, they will become an evolving creed, a dark school of thought in the galaxy's shadows, teaching that power lies not in obedience to gods, but in the unshackled mastery of chaos itself.
Yeah, cool. So like the line I really want to strike home is the heralds of chaos unbound. Like if they defeat all their brothers, then I think they officially like get that spot of like, these are the world eaters for Korn. These are the, Emperor's children for Slaanesh. Like they've won that spot now. And what is unbound is just energy, so it's not like really tied to anything, but still they're heralding it.
Cool.
Well, that's kind of all the lore that we wrote for them. I'm very happy with what happened. I'm glad you guys forced me down this road of chaos. Let's just go through the quick back end of the notes here. How to get involved. Buy a veteran Terminator mini and support the show. There's links in the episode to join the Discord. Like you can just go buy a mini for $40. I'll paint it up, you name it, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's a great way to support the show. And how many models have you guys painted? And just listen to Lorehammer. Now do me a favor, support me in my plastic crack adventure, please. Send me plastic to Panama.
So we do have some silent auctions. Mark had mentioned that earlier. So right now the first silent auction is for the Chaos Chosen and the Champion, and that is going on from the 13th as of like last Wednesday or Thursday to up until the 27th. And then let's see here. The Loyalist Honor Guard will be auctioned off May 28th through June 26th. And then the Sergeants will be auctioned off for June 10th through the 23rd. So if you want in on one of those special spots, just be sure to send in your bid to, was it lorehammerpodcast@gmail.com?
Yeah. And the way it was kind of working, just there is a minimum bid. You can find that on all the spreadsheets and stuff. So you put the minimum bid down. I will announce like whenever somebody's updated their bid on the Discord, so you can always try to outbid somebody if you want. And then at the end of 2 weeks, we'll choose the winners and all that kind of stuff, and you'll get immortalized and get your custom mini.
Yeah, and aren't there just some minis that you can straight up buy?
Yeah, like at any time we are selling Terminators, whether loyalist or traitor, you can buy them. But if you want one of those coveted sergeant ranks or something cool, yeah, you gotta auction those guys.
all the big name ranks you gotta auction for, trying to earn it, and the rest of them. I mean, you get to choose what position in your squad. You get to name them, choose what they're bringing into battle. You can even write like a backstory for them, give them some class.
Yeah, I think 1,000 words is the limit. We went up from 500 last time. I do have one submission already that I will read at the end of this. But yeah, what else do these custom minis have?
Yeah, they have the custom Liber Malleus shoulder pads. They'll have custom resin bases, And then it also, like you said, it covers just some paints and the time to put them a little bit of time to put them together.
Yeah.
Which, like I said before, is actually not a bad deal considering what you're paying for single models on GW's website. So
Yeah, and you support your boy, you know? Just please. I need that plastic. It's been years since I've had plastic, man. Years.
You-
I'm
you
fanging
can have
for
some
it.
of you can have some of mine, Mark.
Oh, look at that. Look at that plastic in the background. Let me just lick my screen. All right. Well, I got one story here that I'm going to read through real quick. It's just kind of an example. And then that'll pretty much be the end of the episode. So this was written by Fuzz, and this is the Marine, the Astartes, Fuzz the Stalwart. Noise registers on the edges of sensory perception. Slowly, awareness increases and lights blink on the power courses through the circuits as wires and nerves and flesh. Words become more clear, but they are more than words, they are stories. As he brought what is brought online, the stories of the deeds of Fuzz the Stalwart, dreadnought of the chapter of the Space Marines known as the Liber Malleus, are told as part of the rites of awakening. Stories, you see, lore and history itself is theirs by right. The point in his tale when he became a dreadnought brings him fully into focus, sacrificing 3 of his limbs and 1 of his lungs fighting off a Necron as they were extracted from a dead craft world. In this part of the Segmentum Obscurus, they have been on their way to a world that showed potential information on how humanity had fared in the part of the galaxy during the Age of Strife. There were ruins that showed evidence of being crafted from void ships, possibly the craft used to get the colonists to the world. If any of the data stories would be inactive, this would be intact, this would be a priceless glimpse into the end of humanity's golden age. When they arrived, however, they found a crumbling craft world in orbit and a small Necron force seemingly in repair mode. We took what readings we could, but continued our mission, trying to avoid unnecessary conflict until their mission had been fulfilled. When they landed, however, Fuzz and his squadmates found the Necron on the surface as well, seemingly searching for something themselves. As they made their way through the largest voidcraft structure, they kept to the shadows and alleyways. They made it into the facility, a huge structure of repurposed metal and worked stone, creating what looked like a palace. Unfortunately, Fuzz nor the rest of the Marines noticed the scarabs crawling on the tops of the columns until they came raining down upon them. Sensors in their helmets blaring, the Marines silent shot and stomped the machines as they hurried their pace looking for any data vaults. The Tech Marines led the way, having more specialized sensors for the power signatures of that information storage gave off. The muzzle flash of bolters illuminated the halls as they worked ever inwards. Now, not just scarabs, but Necron warriors began approaching, firing their Xenos weaponry, heretical but deadly nonetheless. Finally, they reached the ancient scarred doors in the crumbling frame and forced their way inside, Fuzz taking up firing position in the doorway. More and more warriors stalked their way down the hall, no regard for cover or safety. Suddenly, a blast tore through his arm, and as it began to disintegrate, he called for his brother with a power sword to cut it off at the shoulder while he fired his bolt pistol. Looking back, he heard the Tech Marine cursing as he worked through arcane rites that Fuzz himself didn't quite understand to free their prize. This distraction, however, would cost him part of him, as the ceiling came crashing down, crushing his legs. Laying there, trapped, scarabs swarming over him faster than he could crush them, and burrowed through his ceramite chest and began tearing into one of his lungs. If it wasn't for the pain stems, he would have passed out. As he was ready to die with honor, a blast roared from the Thunderhawk, tore open the outer wall for extraction. The dust kicked up by this gave the brothers cover to pull him free and onto the ship. Stabilized by his armor and enhanced physiology, he was able to survive the trip back to their fortress monastery, for entombment into a dreadnought. For Fuzz, he had more to give, more stories to tell. The Tech Marine finishes the tales just as the entombed warrior fully awakens, in practiced perfection. Looking around, the dreadnought takes in his surroundings to analyze his situation, reflects from centuries of training. He assesses the familiar surroundings of the Liber Malleus facility where he sleeps. The Tech Marine familiar with him adepts of the chapter going about its duties, but one thing is new. "Why have you awoken me, brother? And who is this ultramarine you have brought?" asked Fuzz, a steady voice, firm and softer than one might guess for an engine of war such as this. I am, began the chaplain, but a gesture from the giant steel hand stops him. I did not ask you, but my chapter brother, continues the Dreadnought, as if reminding a child of his manners. A sense of frustration and tension quickly passes over the man's stance, but he yields to the tech marine to speak. This is a chaplain. This chaplain is here in order of Gilliman. We have a common cause. It pains me to speak of this, but many of our brothers in the chapter have fallen, lured by the powers of the warp. They have betrayed us, betrayed mankind, and taken our stories, the lore of the galaxy. We can call upon you and aid our vengeance. He is here to watch in case others start to fall. After a pause, Fuzz speaks, not with anger or hatred, but with certainty of purpose. Then we will get them back and ensure they do not cause further harm. And with that, Fuzz, the stalwart Dreadnought of the Liber Malleus, strode off towards the armory. And that is the story of Fuzz, the stalwart, the Dreadnought. So yeah, that's a great example, man. I love that story. That's a great way to do it with little flashbacks, so you're not interrupting with like current canon conflict. Here's the thing when writing lore. You know, if you have to ask, is this too much? Chances are good it's too much. So maybe just remove that part and go with your next best idea. But honestly, whatever you want to write, somebody was writing about them getting tied into black holes, this Chaos Warrior Liber Malleus member. It was above my pay grade, but it's fucking cool. So write whatever you want, really. Just try to keep it canon.
Yeah. I think the big I think the big takeaway is like if you're involving named characters, either A, don't, or two, or B, just like maybe vaguely mention them, like in passing or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, that's this episode of the Liber Malleus, the Sundering. The campaign is in full swing. You can buy your minis. You can participate in the auctions. You can look at all the cool artwork that people are doing. People are designing 3D shoulder pads for me to use. Gothic Garnish is making some videos and stuff for the Liber Malleus, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're going to be very cool.
I think there's a handful of us in the Discord who are painting like our own models for it.
Yeah, the hype is real. I love it. I'm super excited that everyone is getting on board and kind of helping me collect some minis again. So, any closing thoughts on your boys' end?
Nah, y'all have heard about Grimoire Shield enough. I'm not going to do that. But if you all were ever curious what a Primaris Lorehammer chapter is like, I started this hobby with the intention of doing a full 1000 Marine chapter in honor of Lorehammer, since y'all got me into the hobby, with each of the company captains becoming Mark's doing his thing, with each of the company captains becoming being a member of Lorehammer. So if you want, this is going to be a long-term project, and here we go.
I have my company captain here.
Yep.
Cameras.
Good.
Yeah, so the Liber Malleus is just a cheap knockoff. But that's neither here nor there. No,
yeah.
It's cool what people get up to, man. It's fun just kind of inserting ourselves into the grim dark sometimes, even though we're like, thank God that's not real.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Censored, thanks for joining us. Thanks for revealing so little about yourself, but so happy to have you on.
I mean, hey, gotta live up to the name.
Yeah. We know he has cats.
I got 2, and they're both climbing on me.
All right. Well, we all have cats to get home to. We'll see you guys all in the next episode of Lorehammer. Adios.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Until next time.